am Love Coach Scott Thomas. I'm pointing at.
I am Trish Wright. Share it out. Like that's in the background. Hi everyone, welcome to Straight Talk. It's nice to see you here. Come on into the Zoom room. And we're talking about tonight.
Yeah, Happy New Year, everybody. And good, some people are coming into our Zoom room. Welcome, Charmaine and Newtopia, Dr. Newtopia. Dr. Newtopia has a very beautiful vision for our future, which I really appreciate. Welcome, Bonnie, Deborah Haviland. So yeah, we want to invite people to come on into the Zoom room. You know what? I'm going to read out to people our Zoom room number, which is going to take me a minute to just pull it up. Tell people what are we doing tonight, Trish?
Well, we're talking about how to manifest, and I know Scott has some ideas and about his experience with. Is it Dr. Beckwith, right?
Yeah, Reverend Michael Beckwith.
Which is really exciting. And I've been really sitting with, so just how to manifest and what stops manifestation, right? So as the year comes to a close and we've been looking back on 2020 and we're looking back and how we've kind of moved through this new world and this new style of living, like what happened for us? How did it happen? And how did we move through to get what we do have in this crazy world? And the thing that I wanted to bring up, Scott, do you mind if I just jump right into it?
Oh, I need you to jump right in because I'm doing a couple things. That's great.
What I was thinking about is what stops manifestation. I mean, I think that a lot of the people that we know and in our group and in our new age community is that we know that manifestation is part of the thought process. It's the focus, it's the intention. It's really what we focus on is what we manifest, right? But I was thinking about what stops manifestation, and what I'm really gotten clear about over the last little while is that what stops us is not necessarily the beliefs that we can't have what we want, but that we're so caught up in processing our own stuff or someone else's stuff that there's no space. There's not a spaciousness to create what we want. An example, I was really just, kind of working my thoughts out about this one thing that's going on in my life. And I got some coaching on it by our lovely Miss Dawn Light. And it occurred to me that I wasn't being brave in my communication and being brave in my sharing my wants and needs. And literally the second that I chose to share vulnerably, it shifted everything for me. But we got a person who reached out to be on our show, which has not yet happened, right? Someone was like, we want to be on your show. I'm like, whoa. And then there's all these little pieces, like 2 clients at that moment decided they wanted to work with me. So in this hour-long conversation of me being really vulnerable, so many things shifted. My manifestation shifted because I became a clear container, right? Are you guys following along here? Because I chose to show up different in the world, in my empowered place, in my more clear-headed emotional space, that there was so much more room for me to manifest through this, container of humanity.
I was chatting with our Zoom room people there. Go back to gallery view. The power of vulnerability. The power of vulnerability.
How I'm getting it out as well. It's just, I have this tendency for me to hold on to it until I'm clear that I can show up without being judgy or without making it someone else's problem, right? So sometimes I'll hold on to it for a while until I can actually come to you and be like, hey, Scott, I've got this thing that's coming up for me. I know it's my stuff and I just need to share this now, right? There's that difference. So there's a piece of ownership and there's also a piece of vulnerability and there's this piece of clearing space. Because
Yeah.
space to clear, if it's all just messy in there, how can you make stuff happen?
You know, one thing I'm really appreciating, if I'm understanding you correctly, and I've actually experienced this with you in our relationship, um, is you really do the inner work before you bring it to the other person. Um, I found that when there's been stuff that you've brought to me, you've been sitting on it for a while and you've thought about it and you've reflected on it and you've kind of weighed how important it was, what your part of it was, what my part of it might be, what needed to be resolved. You do that work first. And I really appreciate that. Because some people just like the moment they feel tension or something, they immediately go right into it. And then, you know, that person gets reactive. And it's just mature, to be honest, to kind of look first, okay, well, how big a deal is this really? And how much of this is my stuff? How much of this is my projection? And then sometimes you go, well, no, it's not just my stuff and projection. There's really something here that we both need to talk about and clear. So thank you for that.
Well, I'm really, it's years of practice, and your work has really helped me. What I've noticed, if I'm upset, then it generally doesn't go anywhere positive. I have to like clear it out before I'm like, and who's feeling the feelings? Like, if I'm feeling the feelings, it's all like, and I'm all upset about it. It's not your problem. Those feelings are being created within me. So that's a place, right?
Yeah.
But thank you for sharing your appreciation for that. Sometimes it can be really hard.
Uh, it's important for us also to remember that the majority of time that we get triggered, some percentage of it is what just happened, and some percentage of it is re-stimulating an old wound, an old trigger. Ideally, we've done enough self-reflection to really know what our triggers are. And when we do get triggered, to calm down, slow down, take space before we go into a dynamic with the person that just triggered us, to see how much of this, how much of my discomfort right now is what's happening in present time, and how much of it is unresolved wounding from the past. That's just huge. Huge, really big, really big, really big.
Oh, and how can you manifest from that space at all? It's your filters are cloudy. Like those
And you end up manifesting more of the same, right? We end up manifesting another version of feeling abandoned, perceiving that we've been rejected, feeling victimized, perceiving that we got, screwed, ripped off somehow. So when we have the very real pain, and here's the tricky part. When we're running a victim story, the pain we experience is real, but the perception of what someone's doing to us is usually inaccurate. So we're in the awareness that we're in pain and we feel the pain. And that's why you can't just say, well, you're just in your story. We have to have empathy that the pain we're feeling when we're in victim is real. The discomfort is real. But the projection that we're putting onto the world or another person is usually highly skewed.
definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're running a chemical reaction.
Right.
I often try to think about it that way. Is that if I'm triggered, or if someone else is triggered, I try to humanness out, for not like dehumanizing, but just like, okay, wait, whoa, what is actually going on in the neurology here? It's just a flood of chemicals as a name. They've named it something. So the flood of chemicals that I name happiness look like or feel like this. The flood of chemicals that look like this, right? And so being able to clear those things out to get to a place where you can be compassionate, or you can share fully, so that you can clear the space for what's moving forward. Just I was thinking today about mistakes. Well, this conversation. I know we're on manifestations, but I really
No, this is great. This is great. It's New Year's, and I run with it. Go, girl, go.
Instead of doing my homework today, you all should know, I hope my teacher's not watching. Instead of doing my homework today, I got a little bit caught up about mistakes. And I sat there thinking about it and I was like, wow, mistakes, that term is a judgment, like, oh, I made a mistake as a judgment. And it also just doesn't allow for a human to be a human. I don't know if anyone else out there feels this way, but this plane of existence is so slow to manifest. All this matter is heavy. Like all these cells, all of this is so heavy. I have to like think about it and I have to clear space for it. And it's like dragging this body around because the spirit realm is so fast. You can manifest on time. I think that's where impatience comes from. Just my own theory here. But I'm sitting here thinking about mistakes and how even the Dalai Lama gets angry. And I'm reading this thing about the Dalai Lama getting angry about his crew doing something that wasn't thoughtful, that wasn't like thought out and carefully done. And I'm thinking about it, I was like, wow, even the most amazing teacher on the planet still has humanness about them. Like, even the most well-educated teacher, even the most, like, these people are humans. And so when we choose to make them perfect, like make them be perfect, that's when they just lose their whole humanity, right? In our eyes. And it actually dehumanizes us as well. Like if I'm holding that person so tightly to their work or my idea of where they should be, their integrity, then it doesn't allow them for moving forward and learning and growing. And how is that going to happen? Like, how does that work? It shuts everything down. Judgments shut manifestation down. Fear shuts manifestation down. Like the inability to be vulnerable shuts manifestation down.
I love what you're saying. A couple of things very recent that came up. I'm listening to an audiobook, and it's channeled by this woman who's very well respected. And she is supposedly channeling Jesus. And he's telling his true story. And I gotta say, it really resonates for me, actually. I'm usually pretty skeptical about this stuff, especially channeling, because I've been around channeling for 30 years. And I have my opinions about who's kind of tuned in and who's not. And it really resonates. And the reason I'm bringing it up in terms of what Tricia said is that supposedly, if this is the spirit of the being that had an earth life as Jesus, his whole point is, hey, I had a very human life, and I've been turned into this whole symbol for all these things that A, weren't what I taught, and B, wasn't really who I was, and I was very, very human. And he talks about his human mistakes, his human challenges, his relationship with Mary Magdalene, who, according to this, he married and had a life with. And it's really, really interesting. Then on a more direct experience, because of the nature of the work that I've done in my life, I've met a lot of famous people. And I've met a lot of famous spiritual people. And I'm currently interacting with a lot of famous spiritual teachers because of the Saturday Night Live show. And these people are all really perfectly human and they're brilliant. And if you spend enough time with them, you see their humanness. I mean, when we had Reverend Michael on, who's like my favorite. I mean, I spent 2.5 hours today listening to him do a meditation visualization thing, which I'll probably share the details of which. So Reverend Michael, when we had him on, he was really sweating. So there's like all this sweat under his armpits, right? And then his phone went off and it was actually somebody calling him on Facebook Messenger. And Facebook Messenger is really obnoxious. It's hard to shut it down. It's hard to turn it off. It's not like it's easy. And he got really riled. He said, no, I turned off all my devices. I turned off all my devices. And he's, trying to turn off his Facebook Messenger and it's going off. And it was wonderful seeing his humanness. And he went from being spiritual, Reverend Michael giving this download, which is brilliant, which is him in his spiritual self, totally triggered by the device and what was happening, right? And I've seen that over and over and over as I've had a chance. I'll give one more example. I was very involved in something called the Oneness University, giving Diksha. This is when my wife was still alive. She and I were the first people to bring oneness to the Bay Area and to the Hawaiian Islands. And as a result, we were invited and spent 5 weeks on the VIP campus with from all in meets and a bunch of famous people. And we had a 45-minute private audience with Bhagavan, the main guy, this guy that millions of people believe is an enlightened being. I spent 45 minutes talking with him. Super sweet, beautiful guy, really beautiful, and really big ego. And just some of the things he said were very egoic. They were very human. And he was beautiful, and I loved my time with him. And I remember my wife was really shocked that he was human, right? And that he could say those things, right? And so, you know, this is a long-winded response to what Trish was saying about we all are spiritual beings having a human experience. And all of us have moments where we're brilliant, and in the next 10 seconds, we can be blithering idiots because the human side of us can take over. And so I kind of went on a wrap around that, but I just think it's so important.
You know, Scott, I just want to say that that's so important, is that, I mean, most teachers, like spiritual teachers, spiritualists, are teaching compassion, and it's for a specific reason. And as I continue to, first I just want to say thank you for teaching me how to empathize. I actually lost jobs before because they told me that I wasn't empathetic enough. And I was like, huh, they were right. Actually, I was like, whoa, I didn't even know you could learn this stuff. So thank you for that. But as I even develop my practice in compassion, which of course starts with oneself, is I'm learning that it's really allowing for spaciousness, that compassion is creating space. And gosh, like another kind of some more examples of how, let's say Dawn and I, like I'm just going to use Dawn and I because I know she'd be okay with it. Dawn and I have been manifesting some really interesting things in our business itself. And it always comes after something really emotionally large where we actually are processing through our curriculum. Like, you know, we'd get really tight with something like, oh, I really need a client. And we'd have these moments of having like extreme fear of letting some things go, like her letting her other work business go, me letting some of my work go, and just being in that place of trusting that this is the right thing. And having our whole process around it, creating the space, being compassionate, right? Creating the spaciousness for the thing to come in and to really manifest and magnetize. So again, I don't think that there's a separation between compassion and manifestation, or being spiritual and being human and manifestation. I think that it's all the same. It's just the doing of the inner work in the most loving, kind place that you can do.
I love that. I love that. You know, so I agree. And so if we want to manifest, recognizing that it's about compassion, I want to bring in the element of compassion shows up. The action of compassion is radical acceptance. When we can have radical acceptance for what is, so we're manifesting not from where I am is so terrible, or what's going on is so bad and I need to change it, but rather from a place of radical acceptance of what is and finding the gratitude. You know, I did this 2.5-hour workshop today with Reverend Michael, who has manifested at a high level. I met Reverend Michael when he had just started Agape. There were 15 or 20 of us meeting on metal folding chairs in the basement of the Santa Monica Miramar Hotel. And from those humble beginnings, I've watched him manifest a worldwide ministry that has thousands of people watching agape services every Sunday online. And he's the real deal. And his whole point, I mean, if I could distill 2.5 hours into a couple minutes or a few minutes here, it's accepting exactly where we are with gratitude and living in gratitude. That doesn't mean we don't acknowledge discomfort, again, compassion, but radical acceptance of what is and not judging it. See, compassion is the opposite of judgment. And so even if somebody's being a way we don't want them to be, or life is being a way we don't want it to be, if we're judging it, we are in opposition, which actually keeps us stuck. But if we drop into radical acceptance of this is who this person is at this time, this is the mistake I made, this is who I am in this moment, and absolute compassionate acceptance, it clears the field for us to then manifest at a higher level, because we're not grasping in a negativity, which just continues the loop. Judgment keeps us stuck. Judgment keeps us in prison of where we don't want to be. Radical acceptance frees us out of that prison. And it's counterintuitive to some degree, but it's from a higher level, that's how it works. Did I explain that properly?
Yes. Again, it's about creating spaciousnness, right? So the fear, the grasping gets in the way. It's actually when you were talking, I was thinking, you've heard the term "get out of your own way,"
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if you've ever. Anyone who's out there watching, if you've ever done this in your life, please type it in so that I don't feel like I'm alone over here. Gosh, when you start to notice that the same patterns happen in your life, and you're like, why am I it's me. I know that I'm creating it. I'm the one manifesting this, and I need to get out of my own way. Like please help me get out of my way. Like that right there is also a place to look of where you're manifesting, what you're manifesting, and how you're doing it. Because we're manifesting it all the time, right? So getting out of your own way looks like taking a step back, looking at what's going on in your life with loving compassion. Like, oh my gosh, I do this weird thing that keeps me in this particular rhythm. I do this thing, whatever it may be. Gosh, I could tell you a zillion of them right now for me personally, that keep me stuck in a cycle of not actually manifesting at that, not manifesting at that higher level, because I'm judging myself for those things. Like, oh, I drink too much sometimes, or oh, I get really scared around friendships, or oh, I get really sad in the wintertime, or oh, and I create these cycles, right? But instead of sharing them vulnerably, like, hey, Scott, I do this thing, and you'd be like, oh, you're doing that thing again. I'd be like, okay, there's a place where I get too afraid, or I judge that place. I mean, that's why we don't share, right? That's why we're not sharing authentically or vulnerably, is because we get afraid, or we're already judging ourselves, right? So that place of full radical acceptance just allows for what can come next. Because when you actually sit down and hold whatever it is that you're afraid to hold, to look at it, to love it, to look at it with care and be like, wow, this thing is part of me. I am that too. And it creates an opportunity for the next step, the door that opens.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
I was looking, when I look down, by the way, it's because I'm kind of checking the people that are watching us. And Lisa, in watching us on Facebook, writes, when I judge myself, I go into shame. When I go into shame, I go into stunting, and then I stay stuck in the same pit, right? So basically she's acknowledging what you just said. And that's, again, the way out of the pit is radical acceptance, right? We've got to have that radical acceptance of self. You know, Trish and I are in the change business. As coaches, we're hired to help people to change. And one of the things I've learned as a coach that's worked with thousands of people now, ironically, true change is built on a foundation of radical acceptance. We have to be in that place of radical acceptance first. That's like the fertile ground for which then we can change.
I'd also just like to point out that it's not just one time you radically accept something. A foundation is actually, it takes multiple pieces, whether, you know, what kind of foundation it is. It takes multiple pieces and a lot of time to create the foundation. It doesn't.
So I can't just take ecstasy and heal everything all at once and be great for the rest of my life?
Sorry, Scott, but if you really want to talk about, it takes 35 to over 45 days to actually retrain your brain of a habit that you've created only in the last few years. Now, if you've run it for the last 30, 60 years, we're going to have to work on this every day. And you know what? I'll be there with you right now. You and me, we're going to do it together. We'll just sit there and we'll love it and love you there and love you there and love you there and love me there and love you there. And that's just what we're going to do. You don't have to do it alone, but we can do it together.
It's beautiful. You know, so I'll share something vulnerably. One of probably my most significant goal for the new year is to radically change my relationship to alcohol. I've been drinking probably twice a week, and sometimes I drink too much. And so I'm in this, you know, I'm not going to drink. A few minutes ago, when Trish talked about sometimes I drink too much, instantly my mind went to, wow, should I have a drink after the show tonight? I was like, Scott, you just made this commitment, right? And I'll keep the commitment. But that just pointing out how quickly, right, our patterns, our triggers, just her saying that re-stimulated my pleasure memory, which remembers, oh, it feels good to have a drink after I do a show, right? And so changing habits really requires a lot of discipline. It really, really, really does.
It also is about creating daily, right? So if you want to manifest something really big, it's about little things that you can do every day. It's not about, I mean, part of me is like, Scott, you can make craft mocktails. Don't worry, I just looked up a bunch of craft mocktails for these people that I'm in a house with. Like, it's because that person doesn't drink. I'm like, oh, and there's so many things that you can do. So it's not about taking it away completely, but about retraining your palate and your brain. You're always going to associate a cocktail or a drink with some aspect of pleasure. So it's not about like, no, Scott, you don't get into that anymore.
Right, no more pleasure.
No. It really is shifting it to be like, you know what, I can go to a bar and I now have my mocktail that I'm gonna, can you please, you know, whatever little systems that you've created on your own time, and you can make it and you can still feel that sense of belonging, that sense of camaraderie when you go out to drink, if you do that socially, or if you at home, there's other ways to do those things. So yeah, I think that sometimes this new age spiritual community kind of gets a little off when they're talking about, oh, if you just think about it, you can manifest it. Yes. And it's about taking incremental little steps every day.
Yeah, that's right.
Why you can't have it, or why you're not there yet. I mean, if I'm a bitch and I don't know why I don't have any friends, I'm gonna have to get like, look at that. It's not about like, I'm just gonna sit here and pull like a few of my new like cards, these like tarot cards that I got for Christmas, and I'm just gonna be like, I'm gonna manifest my friends right now. No, I'm a bitch. I have to do some things about it. I have to work on myself and clear some space. Like,
Well, that's something you have to work on, because you are the least bitchy person I think I know. Dr. Nutopia and Bonnie both have written a couple things in the chat box here. Bonnie writes, how to transform a cycle. Discover what good you're getting from the cycle and answer the good another way. Well, that's what she was just saying about the mocktail, right? We have addictive patterns because we have a pleasure memory of that pattern. I've never done heroin and never will, but I've read many times that heroin addicts are chasing the memory of their first high, because apparently the first heroin high is the first time somebody's been flooded with that much dopamine. It's so ecstatic, and they're chasing that 200 times later. Dr. Nutopia writes, what do we need to manifest together? What do we need to radically accept in our global crisis?
Excellent.
That's a big one. You want to tackle that one first, Trish?
So, some of that I'm a particular some of my formative training is in tantra, and tantra is the unity that I of all. Like I don't separate myself from well, sometimes I'm human. I try not to separate myself from what is actually going on. So I often spend a lot of time in meditative practices around, you know, I am the people burning trees, and I am that too. I am not only the people doing the good things, but I am also the people doing the bad things, or like I am the earth that's dying, or the animals that are dying in fires. Like I spend a lot of time in that place. And it's not just to like feel bad, but it's to really sit in compassion and full acceptance, because only from that place do I feel like I have enough empowerment to make a difference. Because if I'm just emotional and overwhelmed, I can't do anything. I'm caught up and stopped, like frozen in my humanness, in my human emotional space. Like, and for the transforming a cycle, I have to accept what positive and negative things that I get out of it. Like if I do heroin, if I do heroin, I have to accept that, yes, I don't only just get this place of some ecstatic joy. Well, maybe not. It's more like you feel a little bit more like euphoric. That's what I've read. But I also get something out of the naughtiness or the breakdown, or I have to accept that those are parts of my humanness as well. So when we're going back to what do we need to manifest together? Compassion, love, acceptance, seeing the other person as a person, as one sacred mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was deep. That was good.
Sorry.
I'll offer a couple of thoughts on it. Somehow, there we go. Back to gallery. I believe that when we're making a choice, we want to move toward the longing of our heart, as opposed to reacting to something, again, that we judge or hate. And frankly, I've watched a lot of people that are activists who are reacting against. And I've seen it painfully in the recent politics. The red people that believe that the blues are evil, and the blues that believe that the reds are evil, or at least believe Trump is evil, and the blues that believe that, Biden is a baby killer, and, all these things. And then they get all worked up, and it's all based on judgment and reaction against something. And I do not see any love or any positive energy. I see those people getting sick. I see those people creating more harm. And if anybody has done that and hearing me, I apologize, but not really. It's not useful. It's not useful. It's just self-righteousness.
Yeah.
And look, I've been self-righteous about certain things in my life, okay? We all have been self-righteous. But it's the self-righteous fanatic that creates more harm in the world. But when we really love the earth so much that we want to plant a garden, we love animals so much that we really want to be vegan. When we love something and we're going to make personal choices based on that love, that movement toward the longing of our heart, that's when we do good things. And I've been around a long time. I just turned 65 last week. And the people that I've met who make the greatest contributions in the world are people who are moving toward their passion. They're moving toward the longing of their wise heart. They're in alignment with their purpose, and they're in movement towards their divine purpose. And sometimes the divine purpose might be big and epic, and sometimes it's really personal and absolutely beautiful. Being the best nurse possible, being the best school teacher possible, being the best mother possible. Okay? And that's just as valuable as Reverend Michael reaching thousands of people.
That's true.
So,
I mean, one parent can, if you choose to show up in integrity and in the, I'm doing my best to be a better than yesterday, like that one parent is going to change so many people through that child. Like, I mean, has anyone else had experiences of unraveling their own childhood? Yeah, well, do you know what I'm saying? Like, exactly, Scott. It really is. It really is moving from the longings of your heart, moving towards that. And also doing it because you want to and not because you have to drag a bunch of people into it.
right.
Like I don't want to hate Trump. I actually have a lot of compassion for that human. Like he probably needs a lot of hugs. Like a lot.
A lot.
Like a lot.
Yeah.
He needs a lot of like pets and told that he was a good boy at least once when he was little. Really seeking for it now, right? You know? And how do people like that manifest? Well, you talk about what's in your heart. You share your radiant, passionate experiences. You plant the garden because you want to plant it, not because you feel guilty or you feel ashamed. It's like coming from this place of feeling the calling and the truth and the clarity of your heart, the spaciousness, right? Because you're in a compassionate place and you're not like, F that guy. Like, I want to hurt other people so that I can get things done. It just doesn't make sense. And especially, I've definitely had friends who are like activists in that very violent way and been like, just don't understand it. Can you help me understand? I know you, I feel your passion and your care for this one side, but you're not creating the connection that you want. And that is really, that's a juicy place of creating together. Like only if I want to get on, Scott's train, can I actually manifest with him. It's not like he's not going to be like, oh, I can't believe you eat meat, Trish, or I can't believe you drink, or I can't believe that you drive your car. I mean, like him guilting me is only going to create more stuckness, and our projects won't go anywhere.
That's right. I'm reminded of that John Lennon line. You want to start a revolution? Great. But if you're talking about death and destruction and violence, you can count me out, right? It's not the way to create the kind of revolution. And, I want to acknowledge that, of course, we're in a global crisis. And the human experiment is in a very precarious place right now. But just a little bit of perspective. The Earth is 4.5 billion years old.
Happy birthday.
If you were to map out the Earth's history and give it a 360, like take the Earth's history and translate it into a full calendar year as we know it of 365 days, the human species has been here for the last 11 minutes of December 31st. Really? That's like a bio, yeah, that's like, we are like a really short little blip in Earth's history. And so species have come and species have gone. And that's part, long before the human experiment, species came, species left. Now, that doesn't mean we don't have absolute compassion for how we are treating the Earth, but the Earth is going to be fine. This planet will, 10,000 years from now, 50,000 years from now, until the sun dies, which isn't going to happen for a long time, planet Earth will be having an experience. Mother Gaia will be having an experience. I sure hope that experience includes humankind having reached the consciousness that we haven't destroyed ourselves and taken out a lot of species with us. And I recognize that we have not been caretaking this planet in the way that would meet my values. Okay. But let's also remember the Earth is very old and she's going to outlive us all by a margin that our little human pea brains can't even imagine.
I'm going to say something controversial.
Yeah, we're a little controversial tonight. We're kind of going for it.
I know. Not
It's
sorry.
called straight talk. It's called straight talk.
I've sat in compassionate places for the coronavirus a lot, especially at the very beginning of, like, I don't know if it has feelings, right? It's a virus. I don't think it does, but who knows? But I wanted to sit in this place of, why is it here and what is it doing, right? So staying with the facts of what's happening and how it slowed the entire world. It slowed the entire world down. And I was like, whoa, if I were to want to slow the whole world down and to make them look at some very specific things, why would I be doing that? What would the intentionality be if I was doing it intentionally? Like, I'm not saying that this virus is doing anything intentionally. I don't know. But to really sit in as me as the virus, can I love it there? Can I be compassionate with it doing whatever it does? There's a man that I used to hang out with a lot, and his name's Baba Dan, and he used to have this crystal hat that he would, it was an amazing hat, but he would make little prayer, you probably met him, he'd make little prayer necklaces out of, and weave them, so each braid was an I love you. Anyway, Baba, I know, they're so beautiful. He called them halos. Anyway,
But,
now Baba Dan would say things to me like, I found out that someone I knew had cancer. He said, Trish, you can't stop life. And man, that stuck with me, obviously, for over 10 years. And I'm still thinking about how you can't stop life. Like, if life wants to be lived, if manifestations want to manifest, you can't stop them. You can get in the way, but you can't stop a virus. You can't stop a being that wants to live. I mean, okay, I'm just told with me, there's ways to stop life, but if the thing that's going to continue to move in this one direction is going to actually continue to go energetically until it comes that someone else stops it. So do you want to be the place that opens it compassionately for other people? Can you help them manifest their dreams too? Can you make a post on your Facebook wall about someone who needs a home? Like, that's helping someone manifest their life and their dreams. And being in that compassionate space, it's not making them like wrong or bad or sad. You're not like, caretaking them, but you're like, hey, I have 5,000 people on my friends list. Maybe I can help you, right? So if you want to manifest with other people, help them solve their problems.
beautiful. If you want to manifest together, help them solve their problems. And what I love about that is, look, we don't have control over what Biden or Trump do. We don't have control over whether a country goes to war against another country. We have a tremendous amount of control over how we treat other people. We have a tremendous amount of control about how we take care of ourselves. and how we take care of the people in our immediate environment. That's what we have control over. Let's put our attention there. How can we be of greater service? How can we practice greater self-love? Right? That's where the power lies within us. And let's put our attention there. I agree with Trish. I've had multiple conversations with spiritual teachers that I respect that have been on my shows. And the general consensus is this virus is a very gentle, it's a remarkably gentle response to humankind being out of control. Because clearly humankind has been heading for a cliff. I think most of us recognize that climate change is real, and climate change is species are dying, and at a certain point, if we continued it, the human experiment could come to a big end. When we had Deepak Chopra, he said that his biologist friends say that if all that at the rate we're going, at the rate that the human species is creating climate change, 50% of the world's species will die. If all humans disappeared tomorrow, life would thrive. Right? One species being gone, all life would thrive. This current species being here, at pace, half the species are going to be gone. That's really profound if you think about that. And so this particular slowing down, although we want to have maximum compassion for people who have lost lives, people who have gotten sick. As Dr. Nutropia pointed out, 1 in 1,000 Americans have died, probably because there wasn't proper education earlier on. But it's a worldwide pandemic. And instead of it being Germans versus Americans, Japanese versus Americans, a world war where these countries are against these countries, we're all in it together. Oh, wow, a new virus strain pops up in the UK, and next thing you know, it's in Canada. It started in China, but it's not the Chinese flu. It's not country's fault. We're all in this together. We're all one humanity dealing with the same issue. And I think there's something profound about that.
And that comes back down to the place of just remembering our humanness, accepting that we make mistakes and that we're not perfect, and when we're in triggered states, to be nice to each other or to not talk to each other, and to remember that, gosh, I've just been really thinking about this all day, just really about being gentle with the work that we all do in the world, being gentle with that. Just because I teach compassionate and love doesn't mean that I'm that 100% of the time. Oh, I'm human. Don't hold me to that standard. I need my humanity for my own manifestation purposes, for my own self-love. I need that. I want to see you as the same as me. And the only way that I can do that is through being messy and human and in it with you. Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go back to sharing one more. I'm going to slightly change the channel for a minute and go back to one of the things that I really appreciated from what I heard Reverend Michael speaking about today. Reverend Michael used the analogy of an acorn to an oak tree, the analogy of there's who we are in present time and there's who we want to become. And recognizing that all of us have within us the imprint of our highest potential. Every acorn has an imprint, the main necessary to become a huge oak tree that lives a long time. But then that acorn needs to have a certain amount of environmental support in order to achieve that. It needs to be planted in healthy soil. It needs to receive the right balance of water and sun. What's beautiful is we can, as human beings that have a lot of choice in our lives, we can create the fertile ground that we need to get the proper water and soil and sunlight to achieve our potential that's always inside of us. When we buy into self-judgment or shame or a story that it's too late, I'm too old, I'm too fat, I'm too thin, I don't have enough money, I'm too this, I'm too that, we are deciding that we can't be what we were born to be. And so this is where meditation or reflection comes in, to really tune in to what is my divine potential. Again, it's that, what is the longing of my wise heart? What am I really longing to do? What is my true divine purpose? And really taking time to tune into that and not deny it, not allow the mind to say, well, I could never do that, right? The acorn doesn't go, well, I could never do that, right? If it does, it's not going to become the oak. So taking the time to tune into, what is my divine purpose? What is inside of me wanting to be fully expressed? And as Reverend Michael puts it beautifully, how is God, being all that is, wanting to experience itself fully as me, right? And so it's just such a powerful remembrance for us in manifesting, is to take to go inside and allow ourselves to imagine, what am I truly capable of? Without limits, without limitation, without the mind getting in the way, without the ego mind stopping it, but to allow the imagination to remember what we have within us that's possible, embrace it, and then what is the environment I need to put myself in? And remember that if we commit to that, we take little steps. It's not going to happen overnight, but we take little steps, little steps, little steps, little steps.
Exactly. And in analogy, because to grow a tree, how long does it take to grow a tree? I mean, and it's like, if you want to have a successful garden, you have to water it every day. You have to fertilize it. I mean, it becomes a habit, right? And to create the environment for your manifestations to grow. Again, this plane of existence is heavy. It actually has a lot of matter in it. And so to manifest it, you have to consistently put energy into it. So really thinking about what it is that what can you do? And you're gonna change, right? Like, follow the path of your truest heart. Because if I would have followed my path as my truest heart, Scott, when I was little, I would be a vet.
Oh.
Totally random thought just now. I'd be like, oh, and yet as I grew, it's the compassionate place that I wanted to be. I loved animals. I wanted to be in a place where I could care for them. And now look what I care for animals. They're just humans.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're my favorite human vet. There it is. The human, there's a moniker for you. Love Coach Trish, the human veterinarian. Veterinarian to the human animal. Something like that. You can play with that. She talked about the density of the Earth plane, and I just want to acknowledge the majority of people that are attracted to our work, to Love Coach Academy or 7 8 Alive or Straight Talk. Most of you are what I call Earth Angels. Clearly, Trish is an Earth Angel. Probably all of you are Earth Angels, or most of you. And you came into this world with a desire to really make a difference, because it is a pivotal time in human history. It is a time where we need a lot of angelic energy in human form to turn the tide. And it's dense. When we're in the astral plane, when we're in the angelic realm, of, as it were, we remember that we're one with God. We remember that we're one with all things. We're in that state of love. But when we come into the human body, we come into the illusion of separation. And we come into this incredible dense vibration. And it is dense. There's a reason why people want to get high. You know, it reminds them of higher nature, reminds them of, you know, more love, more ease, more whatever it might be. So I just want to shout out and give some empathy to those moments where we're feeling the density of the planet. And, you know, Dr. Eutropia, who cares so much about our global crisis and feeling the grief, you know, she texted me earlier today, you know, talks about it. She's just like feeling the for all the people that are suffering. And yes, that's there. There's tremendous suffering on this planet. And please remember that Prince Siddhartha became the Buddha of compassion when he accepted there is suffering. What Baba Dan taught you, life goes on. Life has its way. There is suffering. Okay? We can't stop the suffering. We cannot alleviate all suffering as Prince Siddhartha had wanted to do. We can have compassion for the suffering. And then what can I do today to make one life better? What can I do life today to help my neighbor? Or maybe what can I do today to take better care of myself? One of my dearest friends in the world has a show that she does every Thursday called the Self-Love Show, which is a really, really important show, because the more we love ourselves, the more we have to give to others. And we can get so lost in the politics, so lost in the global suffering, so lost in what's wrong, so lost in our judgment of what's wrong.
But there's no manifest you truly long for.
So let's mourn and grieve, but not in a way that's creating paralysis, not in a way that's stopping us from being connected to life's desire to experience love through us. How can love show up through me today? How can God, life, show up through me in a passionate way today? And it just might be taking better care of yourself, or better care of your mother, or your child, or your neighbor, or plants, or your garden, or your dog, or your cat. It might just be that simple.
It might just be doing something that you feel is for you in the moment, and then not a should. Sometimes you're just gonna have to sleep in and not get up. Sometimes you're gonna have to call in sick. Sometimes you're just gonna have to call a friend and say, I love you and I can't show up. Or sometimes, you know, it's about that. It's about doing what you can do now to alleviate the most suffering for yourself or for others.
And let's support each other to do that. Let's support each other that it's okay to take care of themselves, even if we're disappointed because we really wanted to get together with them that night or talk to them or whatever it was we wanted from them. Right? That's real friendship. That's real love when we can see beyond our own personal desire and support our friends, our family to take better care of themselves.
I'm super on that train.
I saw your post in the Single and Sovereign.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
I've been on some rants recently about just taking really good care of, like, that's been my mission the last few months, especially with the people that I'm closest to, is like, how can you love yourself more right now? Like, because the more you can love you, the more I can love you. right? Like, how can I just support you in slowing down and really listening? And I want that for my people because I know what juicy goodness it can offer.
That wasn't to you. My roommate Paul's making a late dinner for us, which smells great. So thank you, Paul, for making dinner. And then he was talking to my other roommates. So, well, with that, actually, I am really, really hungry. I love you very much, Trish. Thank you for your wisdom. And I liked that today we got a lot of wonderful Trishness. So I want more Trish in the new year. And thank you, everybody. A couple things. Nutopia does right, because I want to acknowledge perhaps the and holiness is the manifesting of a better world, figuring out the blueprint. Beautiful. And Deborah Haviland writes, thank you for a beautiful evening. Sweet dreams. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And thank you, those of you watching our replay. You know, people who watch Straight Talk watch the replay. So even if you're not on live with us, we hope you enjoy the show. Still send us your comments and send us what you want to see on the show. And next week, Trish doesn't even know this, Emily Oram is joining us. Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, so Emily's going to be joining us next week. So it'll be a lot of fun. And actually, Emily and I will be in the same space. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun. All right, everybody. Happy New Year. Go manifest. Movement of your heart's desire. Movement of your desire. Go for it. And good night, everybody.
Love you.